Welcome back, ladies and gents, and thank you so much for watching. I've been getting some cool comments and questions here lately on the channel about the cabin, specific things, and quite frankly, they're things that I never would have thought of. So I thank you guys so much for that. And also, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm just one guy who did this with my family out here in the woods, and we're trying to make this stuff work. So I'm no expert, but I'm just trying to show you guys as best as possible what we did. So with that being said, I'm going to do some videos just on specific parts of the cabin, and today we'll start with the electrical. Now, electrical is nothing exciting. I'll be honest, it's not flashy or fun, but it is something that we need to have at our cabins at least, unless you just want to live completely without electrical. So I know most of us don't want that, but when we did our cabin at first, we were thinking, do we do generator? Do we do solar? I know, first of all, I know nothing about solar. So if you ask, I don't really know. But we did run the generator for a while before we ended up running power. But our cabin is still kind of set up to where we could easily run those more off-the-grid type systems. I know generators really, I wouldn't consider that off the grid because you are using gas, which kind of defeats the purpose. But it is an option for those of you. And also it's a good backup option. But let's kind of take a look and walk around, and I'm also going to show you guys how we pulled power down just to get to it. So I know that's not really probably important to all of you, but just in case you were thinking about running it, I'll show you how we ran it underground. So a lot of you have probably already seen our hookup here, but if you have not, what we've got here on the side of it, this is just a basic 30 amp hookup. So this is very similar to what you would have. I'm not going to unplug it right now because my wife's in there and it would kill the power. That would be kind of funny, but this is just a regular 30 amp plug. So this is very similar to what you would run on like an RV, a camper, pull behind trailer, or whatever. So again, 30 amp going in. And for us, we used to literally run this cable and we would hook it to a generator if we needed to run it. And then what we would do is when we weren't running the generator, we actually had kind of like what they call an electrical generator or solar generator, where it's basically just a battery. And we would use that battery to power like the TV and stuff like that inside. And it worked pretty good. The only thing I didn't like about the generator is just, it's loud. We just didn't like it. And we also planned to move out here. And we were kicking around the idea of solar, but we just never went down that path just because, again, we're going to be moving out here. So we ran power. But again, 30 amp hookup. Now, one thing I do regret is, and I can show you this too while we're looking at it, you got the regular air conditioner here, and the reason I'm showing that is a 110 air conditioner. And with the generator that we had, whenever this container was finished, we had the right kind of air conditioner put in based on the generator we're going to use. I hope that makes any sense. So in other words, we didn't have we didn't have the high-end Mercedes version of the air conditioner heater up there. Now, if we'd have known we were going to run power from the street or power from the county or whatever from, being on the grid, I would have done this as a 50 amp. And what that does is just allows you to run more inside. I'm not an electrician. I don't know. That's just the way I'm going to call it. I'm assuming the 50 amp lets you run more. We'll just leave it at that. If we were running the 50 amp, then we would have had something up there that was a heat air combo, and it would have just been just a killer unit for this thing. For us, where we hook up is this little gym. So we are on the grid. So no, we're not off the grid. And all we do when we come out here, I can show this without hurting myself here. You can see we've got the 30 amp outlet right there, and they even installed a 110, which is cool. We got 2 breakers right here. Now, this pole, we did put this in, and then the power company came out and literally hooked up the meter, and then they brought the power up from the ground down through there. So we installed that. They ran it literally down our road right there, which we'll go to in a moment, and it hooks up. But you can also put a generator out here. And one of the thoughts was to come out here somewhere and build like a little generator house. That's what we thought of. And that would have been a neat idea. So if you are going to be on the grid, if you are going to be hooked up, my recommendation is get a bigger hookup, get the 50 amp. You can run something bigger up there. It also allows you to run more inside the cabin when you're going. Now we have had, let's see, we've had the heater going while we've got cooking going and TV and lights and all that, and we've never kicked anything. So, and I've never really pushed it to see what would happen if we did, but you know what? It works. It works very well, and we're not running anything, besides heat, air, or cooking. So we don't have water, we don't have hot water, nothing like that. And of course, lights and TV doesn't take up much at all. But it works. And again, you can do this with a generator, and I am sure there are ways to also hook up solar. Now, one quick thing I didn't think about is that they do make some of those, I guess they call them solar generators, that you can plug in and you can, I mean, literally it's like a generator. It's like a big giant battery, right? You can plug everything. They do make some of those solar generators and they've come a long way, and I might actually look some up and put them in the description below. But they actually have 30 amp hookups. So if you're thinking about that, if you're on the fence, like, do I run a generator? Do I run solar? I hate generators because I don't like to burn gas. Like us, we don't like to burn gas. Then that might be a really great option. Now, I'm sure they're going to cost you some money, but hey, if it's something that's makes no noise and you could literally put it in there with you, it might be a worthwhile option. So we're going to get inside the cabin. I'm going to show you guys kind of the setup in there and just how basic it is. And again, folks, we're talking basic, but it gets the job done. So we will look in there, but first we're going to go run up here by the, we'll call it the road. It's dirt, and show how we pulled power down and how we were able to make this look so clean out here. And here's the transformer. Now this is right at the county road where they pulled the line down off the power pole. And this was, we installed this, gosh, I want to say 2.5 years ago or whatever. And they did a pretty good job. We're very, very thankful that we did it, but this is something that for us, we were only going to do simply because we plan to build out here. This is expensive. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say how much, but let's just say it's approaching 5 figures. Let's put it that way. So it's not a cheap endeavor. And where we're at right here is basically like the corner of our land almost. So we have borders that go this way and then others that go that way. So it's like a big square that opens up like that. So we're right up here at the corner, which is a good spot. And of course, they thankfully put the transformer off of this fire break we got through here. So I'm glad they did that. But what they did is, one thing, if you're going to run power, and if you're debating on underground versus overhead, even with underground, you still have to have a path. They have to have something to run it down. So you can't just say, hey, I want a path through there. No, they're going to, if you do that, they're going to come in there with a dozer and probably remove a lot of that, even though it's underground. So we already had this road. Chances are you're going to run your power underneath your driveway, something like that. But once, give it about a year and a half, you can't even tell anything was dug up. So it looks really good. The other option, run it overhead. No, we weren't going to do that. Here's why. So if you've ever went out in the country and you see houses to where they're way back off the road, but then you see all the power lines just going down through there, they're going to have to cut a lot of trees out because you're going to have limbs hitting the wires. And then they're going to have to cut them out, and you're going to have those ugly power poles and all that. So for us, it was a no-brainer. It made sense because you can look, I'll show you here. I can walk fast enough. There's the cabin down there, and you can see we're not far from the road. That's mostly because the cabin itself is tough to move. But you figure through here, there would be power poles and all that. And this just looks better. But at the same time, you don't have to worry about your power getting messed up because it's underground. Now, that's not going to stop you back there at the county road. You can still have bigger problems. But again, it just depends. It's a money thing, right? And I don't even know, honestly, what the cost was to run this above ground. We weren't even going to consider it. So I don't know if it's half the cost or what, but they knocked it out pretty quick and did a great job. So I guess it all just comes down to preference and money, right? It's like, what do you want? What do you want to accomplish? And what's your budget? I know if money wasn't an issue for any of us, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? But that's not the case. That's not the reality. Another thing too, I know a lot of people will try to run these in their backyards. Now I know depending on where you live, you're going to have rules. I don't know. You get in some of these cities, man, they got so many rules and everything. I couldn't tell you. But if you do have something running in your yard, you can treat it kind of like somebody that's got a camper in their backyard that they want to keep hooked up. You can have somebody install you an outlet on the outside of your house and hook it up. So if you're looking for something to have for somebody out back or something like that, and there's no restrictions, it's not even a problem. Just run you a line to it. You can run you a 50 amp line, have it hooked up to your home. I guess as long as an electrician does it, it'll be up to code. But just don't tell anybody. It'll be perfectly fine, right? But let's get in this cabin and show you guys the hookups in there. They're pretty basic, pretty simple. I like it though because it makes it easy to work on. Let's check it out. So the inside here is pretty basic. You see we got a breaker box right here, and then down here, this opening. This is the only opening besides, of course, the windows on the side and the one little window on the back. And the air conditioner, I guess, that has, I guess, something that was cut to the outside. This actually goes to that outlet, that 30 amp hookup on the outside. So if I ever need to get in there behind it and remove it, I can literally remove these. I don't know exactly what all's in there, but I do know, worst case, this could all be pulled out and resealed. It's not a problem. If I ever get anything leaking through here or bugs getting in, just run some more caulking and get it done. You can see here they ran everything on the outside. And then our breaker box here, you can see is just pretty basic. We got one big breaker there for the air conditioner, and everything else is just for the outlets that are in there. And we kill these whenever we leave, so that way when we hook up our power, it doesn't pop anything, but I'm sure it wouldn't ever be a problem. And then you can see here, for example, this runs up. I'm looking at the ceiling and over here for the air conditioning. And then we've got lines that go all the way around the cabin for outlets and etc. So the question is, why in the world did you run this stuff outside? Because it looks ugly, blah, blah, blah. The reason is these walls. So these walls, and I'll get into this later in another video. There are 2x4s behind these, but they're flat. So they're like this. They're not sticking out. So your insulation's pretty thin, but that gives you more space in here because these containers are already pretty small. So we're trying to keep as much as possible as far as open space. So this could be, in theory, we could rip all this out and run all this inside. We could get rid of the conduit and just run the lines inside and mount up your outlets and all that. But I'm not really too concerned about it. May do it down the road sometime. I don't know, but it is an option. And then of course here for the lights, these are also on the breaker, and these lights are ran by a switch. These right here, I'm not really a fan of. They're way too bright. You're not going to just sit in here and enjoy with these lights on. But I could easily replace them, so I could pop those down. Maybe I'll figure out some cooler lights to run. Don't know. And then just paint over that. And then this wall, all this is siding. So in case you're wondering, but maybe I'll get into that more later. But that's the electrical, folks. That's about it. There's really not a whole lot to it. And the cool thing is, if I ever need to get into it, add to it, all I got to do is break open this conduit. So that makes it very, very simple, in my opinion. And here's a better picture of some outlets. So this is what the outlets look like. Again, nothing fancy, very archaic, very industrial. I guess we could always just replace that receptacle cover with something that doesn't look so industrial. I never even thought of that, actually. Maybe I should look into that. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll rip these walls out, and then there's a power strip to hook up small stuff, including our TV. But maybe we'll rip these walls out some point and redo it. I don't know. If you guys got suggestions, put them in the comments. I want to learn. But this is what we did. The place that built this cabin is very kind of industrial. They deal with more office type stuff, so that's why they set this up like this. But at the time, it was a good idea, and hey, it works. But that is the inside. As far as electrical goes, that is about it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to wrap this video up right here. I hope it was helpful for someone. I'm not the expert. Again, I'm not an electrician. I'm not a builder. These are just our experiences and what has worked. This is a very archaic design. It's very basic. Yes, we could have done things differently, but quite frankly, we didn't really know for surely what we wanted whenever we put this cabin out. We knew we wanted a cabin. We just didn't know. We had to experience things, and I think this was a good option for us. So it's kind of a blank canvas to kind of go in, change whatever we want. The nice thing with the electric is the electric is there. We can easily go in and redo the walls. We can add more insulation, and who knows, we might make that a project in the future, and we'll put it in the video, of course, for you guys to see it. But again, I appreciate you so much. Please, if you can, hit that like and subscribe button, and we will chat with you guys next time.